Okay, good evening to the June 29th Town Center and Library Committee meeting. It doesn't look like we have any additional public. There's none here. It looks like we have a quorum.
Yeah.
And Dave's got his dinner, so
Yeah, yay.
we're all set.
And we
I
have
think-
an addition to the agenda.
I think I'd like to shift something. I think I'd like to talk about the funders conference after
Yeah,
we talk
Mhm.
with John. John's got a long list of things that
Okay.
he would like to discuss with us. I'd like to
and
try.
you
to-
wanted to add the architectural historian, which probably doesn't need John.
Yeah, that's probably afterwards as well.
Okay.
So let's do that later.
Okay,
I think Lori and I can say is that the funders conference was a lot of fun and
it was really fun.
it was really fun, very well
It was
attended.
very interesting. Ben was shocked
Yeah.
at how many people came.
Yeah, it was very well attended. I don't think they're gonna have any money without significant strings attached, but
But there were some good suggestions
good
and they were the best thing. No, we'll do it.
Yeah.
The best thing was they thought we were on the right path.
they definitely did, and they
Yeah.
thought that we were pretty far along as well. So we do have a quorum, and I'm gonna, do you want me to share any, do you want to share a screen, John?
I will momentarily. I am, Dave, just so you know, I'm just sending you an email right now that has the copy of a more detailed agenda that I'm using
Uh-oh.
and that I passed out.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and you've got three. And what do I want to do? I want to,
You don't want to see my
not
email.
sure exactly how to share your screen. Do you have to ask? You might have
I
to
think
ask.
if you make him a co-host, he will be able to share the screen.
Or I can, I've got a button.
Yes,
here that
there you
says-
go.
Yeah,
Just-
Say yes.
yeah.
Okay.
And now I think John
And
should be
then
able
you-
to share his screen.
Okay. This is, I guarantee it is not going to go as smoothly as when Andrew is sitting here pushing these buttons.
You should
Right.
know that at least, I'll speak for myself. I've been very happy with Andrew. Andrew's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
doing a very good job.
It's been great.
So, all right. So we had put on here number one,
Yeah,
recap of the
We can
funders
move
conference,
that.
but I'm fine with moving that down.
Yep.
So there's a couple questions here. The first item, as you can see, is the post office. There's a ramp out there on the side of the building that
It's not-
goes from the parking lot up.
I assume it's
Door.
not a handicap ramp. It's probably for,
It's awfully steep to be a handicap ramp, so
so it's
To the
probably
loading dock ramp.
it is.
for a load
But
dock ramp.
so the question is really whether that is something that's truly required, because as we were looking at this, we were assuming parking up against the building and a sidewalk that went along there. It got people back up to the front door. So the question is just how necessary is that? Is that a leftover from somewhere else? Is it
It would have been
part of
designed
the
by.
post office?
It would have been designed by the.
yeah, that's,
Probably the thing we should do with that is ask. Ask them
check with Aaron.
if they need it, and if it's, I'm assuming actually it probably is used quite a bit, because, what they do is they have to load their cars. So it's
Yeah.
not just unloading trucks, by
Right.
the
Yes.
truck loading dock. They have,
Mail carriers use it.
the
to
mail
load their
carriers have to
trucks.
load all their stuff, so they
car.
have to get it from up there down to their car. So I am assuming it is. So I would say probably yes.
Okay, because
Mhm.
as we're gonna see here, the foundation wall right there is not in very good shape.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And you can go out and look. If you're in the trench, you can kind of see daylight through in spots.
Well, that would be an energy
And it's,
issue.
and you can see by looking at the photos that we have,
We have to do stuff with the foundation anyways, because we have to fill in the chase that goes all around.
right? We want
We
to
have
talk
to
about kind
add
of the
the
best ways to
concrete.
do that.
We have to add an inch of concrete to the. floor.
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty simple
That's
to
a
do
skin.
in some parts of it, but not necessarily
Okay.
there. I mean, the elevation of the post office floor at the front door is good by like a half inch. but the spot further back nearer to the loading dock inside where it drops down an inch and a half is an inch too low.
Right.
So that is what needs to be filled in.
Okay,
What this is sometimes when Andrew's at home doing this, it's because he can have two monitors and he can see the meeting and he can see what he wants to choose
Yeah,
from
yeah.
to put up on this on the
Yeah.
screen.
yeah,
Borrow my computer.
Yeah, right. So if I share the screen now, how does that work?
Did you ask? You asked. to
have
share.
a
I don't think I
button to
did
share
ask
I
for
think you
that
screen.
yet.
did, didn't you? Didn't they know?
No, but I can do it now.
You made him a co-host, but he has to
I
like,
haven't made him a
Wait.
co-host yet.
Okay,
Oh.
well, I just asked to share the screen. I hit
Okay,
share.
there you go.
there it is. Oh,
Yeah, that is my. Now, please bear with me. I'm glad the entire public isn't out there watching me thrash around on this. Here we go. Move Dave over
You got
there.
pictures. Great.
So here's a couple photos. So there's a good photo.
Mhm.
There's the bottom of your ramp.
Yeah,
So you can kind of see there, oops.
Yeah, it looks terrible.
yeah,
And you can see pretty much that is almost certainly from salt getting
Salt.
sprayed on that steep
So,
slope
Yeah.
ramp that,
yeah,
so people don't slip and fall.
right,
But when you can stick your hand through that hole,
yeah.
almost.
yeah, I wonder
Yeah.
what those sandbags are for.
And what are the
Remember-
sandbags? Yeah,
I don't know what those sandbags are for.
hopefully not to keep water out.
Right,
Right.
We should ask the post office whether
Yes,
they need the ramp.
do they need a ramp? Do they want a ramp? I mean, does the ramp need to be there? Are we gonna
You know,
try to?
I will ask them, the postmaster, Aaron
Aaron.
Lynn. I think it's Aaron Lynn.
yeah,
I'll ask her and I'll ask her about the sandbags, but I think for your purposes, I would assume yes. There has to be some way to get. Maybe we could do it with an elevator. I would think a ramp would make as much sense as anything. They're trying, they would be bringing like dollies, to
Mhm.
Amazon boxes,
Okay.
lots of them.
yes,
All right. So when we get into trying to infill that trench, you end up with, here's a picture of that trench, right? Here's the outside of the
Yeah.
building. That's the
Okay, that's the-
block or the brick, that's the brick right here. Down below is that concrete block that we were just looking at, that it was all spalled apart.
yeah,
So the ground, varies somewhere along here, but so
Yeah.
part of that is above ground and part of it is below ground.
Yeah,
So and you can see here, this is a piece of little metal deck. Oops. Got to be a way to make that.
and that's
bigger.
for the loading ramp?
No, that is so that the
Carry the-
because there's a hole here in the ground, this is air, you have to span across there. So it's
Oh,
a piece
right,
of metal
right.
deck that kind of just spans across, and then they poured some concrete slab on top of that.
mhm,
It wouldn't be impossible to take that out. And the most cost-effective way to fill this trench in is to pull this out, cut it along here. Pull it off, cut it over there, and just put some fill in there, some
Mhm.
gravel and stones and dirt and whatnot, and compact it
Mhm.
down and then pour a slab back on top of it.
And fix the foundation at the same time.
And you could put some insulation in there or whatever. We're suggesting that you just kind of parge that and
Okay, forget it.
repair
be-
that.
So, my only concern on that, it's a bearing wall. So it goes to the foundation, the roof slopes that way.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not sure that, clearly it's bearing the brick that's on
Yeah.
top of it. But I think there's columns in between each of those sets of windows. That
Okay.
probably we don't know this for
Yeah,
sure yet.
there probably would need to be, yeah.
So now but the biggest problem with doing this way,
It goes along the whole way.
I think then you have to start talking about closing the post office for a period of time.
mm,
and relocate.
John, excuse me, what's the trench for and why are we infilling it?
Well, because it's below the floodplain.
Yeah,
And that's, for whatever reason, that's why it needs to be.
that's where the
filled in.
heating pipes are.
It's where the heating pipes are that we're not gonna need or want anymore.
It's a chase all the way around the perimeter of that wing,
Okay,
Correct.
all right,
and it's pretty gruesome.
It's about 5.5 feet tall.
Yeah,
It's a lot of dirt, and therefore, if they have things like they call, flowable fill, that you could just drill a hole in there and fill it up with this kind of slurry that hardens. That would work
Right.
great. But
Yeah.
it's really, it's a lot of this stuff.
yeah.
okay,
A whole lot.
okay. Yep,
And it would be much more expensive to do than pulling the cover off and putting a bunch of dirt in there, and, it's gonna take, a week or two to do that. But don't forget, we also have, the way we're talking about this right now, we're also talking about carving out part of the back of the post office, become the mechanical room, and we don't know if we're gonna be doing renovations in the ceiling, to
I have a
reinforce the
suggestion.
structure.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
So how about if we schedule a meeting with the postmaster and I don't think we care.
We can
We
answer,
can't
and I don't think we
answer
can answer
that.
that
We can't
question.
answer those questions, and I don't think we can, we would want to do it in the most cost-effective way, and we want to keep them in the loop, and we want them to be able to make the decisions that make the most sense for them.
Mhm.
Right, and she probably has rules. she
So
has to
I
follow.
would suggest, and I'd be happy to be a part of that meeting. She's been very, very cooperative.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's a permanent postmaster, which is exciting. How about, does anybody else want to participate in that meeting? Dave, do you want to do that or?
I don't think it's necessary to, to extract info from them.
Okay.
They're going to
You're breaking up,
be
Dave.
reluctant to have downtime.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, that-
sorry, my
I'm sorry, Dave.
it's fine. They're gonna be reluctant to have downtime.
Right, and I was gonna say, I don't think you can close the post office.
More
You
relocation.
have to relocate it, whether that's parking, some temporary trailers or something out back that they're working out of. Or moving them up here, or I don't know what.
They might be able to work out of a different, different office too, if we can suggest how long it's gonna take. If it's, so it's 2, 3 temporary. It's gotta, post offices that go through construction.
Exactly.
No.
So anyway, it's just something to talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the most cost effective way if they moved out for however long it turns out to be. It could be 2 or 3 months.
Mhm.
Right, to do all the renovations that we want to do inside.
Yeah,
They've got some things they've asked us to do too, and
Yeah.
that would certainly make it easy to do that. And I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like the toughest day to move out is the first one.
Mhm.
yeah.
And once you're out for a week, it might as well be a month or 2 or 3 months or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So, because you don't want to move back in until it's ready and
Right.
whatnot.
So, and we might have similar problems with, some of our staff as well, during this construction process. So it could be that we rent temporary trailers for a period of time,
Mm,
during construction. Will your construction estimator be able to figure that out and include?
Well, I mean, we'll all, we'll have to try to talk with them about what's the sequence, how long is it gonna take? I mean, if you guys move totally out of the building,
That's not like,
then well, I know, but that, then the contractor comes in and
Yep.
does it, and they don't have to work around you. It's a lot easier. They don't have to worry about
mhm.
all kinds of things. Other than probably even if you moved out of still allowing Linda access to the vault,
right,
even if she was out in the parking lot.
that's right. She needs access to the vault.
Mhm.
We did talk about this early on. That was one of the pros of building a new building is that you could, you could shuffle, and we'd also talked about, there's potential for doing some shuffling in the building. Doing some renovations, like to do the police station first. Right now it'd be easy because we don't have
Yeah.
any police in it.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's the other thing that you can do is you start to renovate places that have, if you renovated any of the space up here or all this,
Yeah, then they
and
can,
then you move up here, you work in there, and then you move the planning and zoning up here and
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we
Why
talked
not?
about the select board could be meeting over in the library
Library.
community room. We just set everything up there and,
Right,
you
Yeah,
know, and
leave it
it
there.
just, the meetings just happen there until
right.
it's
I mean,
done.
you've got a
Yeah.
tenant here as well that you should
Yeah.
talk about. At some point, there's gonna be some renovations
Well,
probably in
yeah,
there.
Yeah,
MMCTV
that's
is the-
another meeting that we should schedule. We're further along in this process now, and I think it's worth meeting with you have met with, Andrew met with the Historical Society. It
Yes.
actually got some good ideas.
Yep, exactly.
So this is probably the right time to schedule that when Andrew's back. And we can talk about some of these details, it would seem to me,
Right.
with the specific affected parties.
Mhm.
It would also be good, I should mention this as well, that we have a new planning director. So Andrew met with the zoning administrator in between we didn't have a planning director at the time. It would be worth meeting with him.
So the planning director's name is
Keith Oborn, I think is his last name.
O.
Oborn, like not Osborne, but Oborn.
Okay,
And it's on the website.
okay.
Yeah,
So but that's separate from the zoning or the planning and zoning director?
He is the director of the department, you know,
Okay.
so the department is planning and zoning. And he's the director of the
Okay.
department, the zoning administrator is fairly independent, though, they're fairly autonomous. So the zoning administrator gave us, I don't know if you were at that meeting, I don't think you
No,
were.
no, I guess I'll just ask strictly, is the zoning administrator still here or
Yes.
has he
Yes.
left?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
because that's who we mostly were talking with.
That's
I
who we
think.
were mostly
Okay.
talking with, but
Okay.
the planning director is a little bit higher up the food chain, but there was nothing. Our conversation with the zoning administrator I don't think there'd be a lot different, we talked about filing cabinets.
Mhm.
We need them, even if we go, even if we go digital, we can't get rid of the existing files.
Right.
Okay.
So, in terms of the post office, these next questions aren't necessarily, for the post office folks, but for you, but. There's a question of, we talked about the walls and the windows and the building envelope on this building.
Mhm.
You also have a different construction down at the post office, which we don't really know what's in that wall.
Mhm.
We can try to come in and poke some holes and look,
Are
but
there plans for these
no.
things? No, they just did it,
Really,
right?
no.
They just built it.
It was probably done in the '60s.
It almost certainly was done in the sixties.
I can ask Karen Yagi, because she had the original plans for the library.
She gave us the original plans for this building, but
Yeah,
I don't.
I
think
can
we-
have her look. At least it's worth having her look.
Yeah, if there is, but we're guessing that there's a very small amount of insulation in that
Yeah.
wall, if
Probably
any.
not, yeah.
And at the same time, we know that wall for the foundation into that trench is uninsulated
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
and open to the weather. So we're not thinking that that's a very great, robust R value in that wall.
Right.
Or it's not very,
Yeah.
very well air
The
sealed.
windows are probably the highest RVAD.
And the windows look like they've been more recently
I think they
replaced.
were, and I don't recall exactly when, but I think they were
Oh.
in the past.
And we'll let everyone else have their own opinion about the aesthetics of that portion of the building, but that's not really what we're talking about here. So it's really a question as we talk about the scope of this project, to what extent do we want to try to upgrade that piece of the building?
Well, part of it's easy. So, I always get confused on the orientation. The upper right-hand corner
Right.
is what, south, I guess?
I don't know what, yeah, it's south, yeah,
Southwest. So that's a loading dock,
yes,
so that is what it is. It's a loading. dock.
right,
It's more or less an industrial space with block wall, you could put some rigid insulation on the inside. And sheet rock it and call it a day, and that wouldn't probably be too difficult. The lower right-hand corner is gonna be the mechanical room, so we're gonna be doing something in there anyways.
right,
The rest of it's all windows. I mean.
right.
Except for
windows. I
the
mean,
one.
Well, I mean, there's 2 or 3 feet of
Yeah.
brick underneath the windows.
No, I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, I think it would be particularly if we want to do this energy efficiency stuff.
That's what I was, that's where I was going. If
Uh,
they're included in our new HVAC system, then we should be,
if we're gonna be heating it, then we
Yeah.
should be,
Yeah.
addressing. it.
So, we can try to look at what the option is for doing it from inside,
That's
which
right.
typically is not a great idea, though I think you probably get away with it if it's a masonry wall in there.
Yeah.
And we don't want to trap, you don't want to trap anything that's going to rot
Mhm.
between two layers of insulation.
Yeah, like you say, there's not a
Right.
lot of insulation.
Well, again, it kind of depends on what that wall is. I mean, if you're gonna try to put insulation on the outside, like we typically would do, you're looking at removing that block that you see in the picture, plus the brick up above. And then, this is just a slippery slope. I'm not recommending doing this. But then, once that's gone, now what about the windows? Are they even gonna be supported by anything, or, to what extent are they?
Moving, or can you add?
Well, or you might be able to add on the outside face. We haven't really looked at what those possibilities are. We just want to know whether it's anything we even should be talking about, or we.
I would
we
think,
should
yes.
be
Yes.
talking about that.
I would think, yes. So one of the things that we stressed at the funders conference, and they appreciated and struggled with, is a high community value here is efficiency and energy. I think it's fair to say, and it's been expressed in many different ways, and in our visioning sessions for this building, it's also been expressed in the ARPA committee. That, if we're gonna be making this building for the next 50 or 100 years, we want to, do it right.
All right, well. All right, and so then this morphs very quickly back into what we talked about at the beginning,
This
which is if you're insulating this wall from the inside, now the post office has to leave.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So,
I think, I don't know, I would think, money would talk to us, which would be the most cost-effective option, and I guess you could throw in the cost of relocation, except that it seems to me that we're not going to be able to get away from relocation, no matter what we do.
we need to remain sensitive to that and keep that in mind as we go through all the other decision points coming up, but you're right.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen before, where you're trying very hard to not do this, but it's like every time you go around a corner, you realize that it would be much easier if you did do that.
Yeah.
So at some point, we're gonna say, we just have to find, and so we might as well start looking now what it means to move the post office, because right now it's easy. Oh, they just move out and we do all the work we want. Well, let's find out just what the price is.
There's a lot of impact on it. So if you throw some temporary trailers in the parking lot, you take up a lot of parking spaces. We do have a brand new parking lot across the street that's very nice. It's people could walk from.
And Aaron, as you said, post offices have done this.
Yeah.
They might already have like the whole trailer. They might already have
I'm gonna lease it
had
from the federal
practice,
government.
but they might have practiced, know what works
Right.
in other situations,
Right.
and they can give us some guidance.
It-
Maybe not, but you never know.
A challenge with that is that Erin has been very accommodating.
Yeah.
And receptive, and I think she's going to be great to work with.
Right.
If she can make the decisions. If you have to go through the US Postal Service construction or property maintenance division, this is going to be harder.
It's a lot harder.
But we can't determine that. So
Right.
I think it's
No.
it's a conversation with Aaron,
Right.
and bring these up and see how we work through those issues.
Yep.
And for our purposes, we just want to make sure that we account for the cost, whichever direction we go for. So
Right.
we don't
Yes.
my whole direction at the moment anyways, is that we want to come up with a realistic number for a bond number. We don't want to undershoot.
Right.
It's not great to undershoot.
Okay.
So to answer your questions, I think efficiency is a high priority for us, whichever way we go. Cost effectiveness is a high priority for us. As far as, which way to go, this way or that way on the post office, we'd like to include
Cheap.
the
two.
postmaster,
Mhm.
those decisions.
All right.
Uh,
Good.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Windows, you want to talk about windows on
No, I think it's all part of the same conversation.
You know, as far-
as we
as
look
far as
at,
I'm concerned, I don't need to replace those windows. They're,
No.
they're relatively new and they seem to function.
Mhm.
They're the
nice
tightest.
picture of them.
Yeah,
They are problematic in that there's a lot of solar gain in the summertime in the morning.
yeah,
I mean, that's interesting because they must be facing to a great
The
extent
east.
to the east
Yeah.
because in the summer, there's quite a big overhang on that. and
There is.
That overhang should be
Helps.
blocking the midday sun.
Yeah.
That's where it's much higher in the sky.
yeah.
In the winter, it's more likely to come down through when it's facing south, which probably people don't complain about as
What's
much.
problematic and the mechanical engineer should be aware is that lobby where all of the boxes are. There's not great communication between that lobby and the rest of the space, so even in the wintertime, it'll heat up and that'll be hot and the rest will be cold and it's heating up. You know, one of the things that we did do is you can see all the shades there are all the same height.
Mhm.
That's because they're motorized
Right.
and they can, they're like these actually.
Right.
They're similar to these.
Oh, good. Well, those are nice shades.
They are nice shades, so.
Yeah.
So you can see through them. It was a careful choice.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
what we would be probably recommending,
Yeah.
something like that. So that's good. So, it's possible that, the
As long as it's,
If
it's
we
long
do
as
it
it's
right-
controlled. You don't want to put the thermostat out there and then they
right,
freeze back
exactly.
there.
But, these windows are probably the strong piece of this envelope right
I
now.
think it
And
probably
if
is.
we did do an upgrade, they might go from being, first to worst. But they would still be the exact same window.
Mhm.
I don't know about the roof. I know it's not original.
Mhm.
I believe it's been done in the last 20 years, which doesn't mean it doesn't need to be redone.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't think we're gonna be able to, I don't know if you can tell now. Have you ever done infrared shots of a flat roof? You know, because
Oh, yeah.
you can tell where it leaks then.
You can, yeah, well, you can tell where the wet insulation is,
Yeah.
and that would be something that you could consider.
Yeah.
Doing as an infrared scan of that roof. I mean, this is just not the greatest time of year to do that.
It is not, but I mean, you probably still could tell. And we're gonna beat up the roof some anyways, because I'm hoping we're gonna remove those mechanicals off that.
Right,
roof.
and we're gonna be putting some new stuff on there probably and whatnot. So,
It needs to be thought fairly carefully because there's a big drop from this building onto that flat roof, during the
Mhm.
winter time.
Yep.
With snow shedding. So you have to
Mhm.
think about that.
yes.
Do you
So-
know if, isn't that roof a membrane roof? It doesn't have any ballast on it, right?
That's correct.
Yes, that's correct.
So,
So if you did a scan, it would tell you, if there'd been a leak and there was wet insulation. So, because you can see the difference, it doesn't really tell you how much insulation is there. To do that, you have to get a roofer up here, they core a hole,
or
they tell you what's in there, they put the plug of insulation back in and they put a patch over it. And it's pretty simple.
the advantage to doing that is, oftentimes, particularly with a brick building. The place where you get the most efficiency gain is by adding insulation to the roof. The walls are harder, particularly a brick building. It's harder to deal with. But if you load up more insulation on the roof, that's where most of the heat loss is.
Mhm.
And if you tighten up the air infiltration down below, which looks like there's an awful
Looks
lot.
like there's a lot on that
There's an awful
cement
lot.
block wall at
Um,
least.
You get a lot more bang. for your buck.
So, does anybody know, is it able, or would anyone be able to find out when that roof was last replaced?
I doubt it. Linda, maybe.
It's worth asking that question. I mean, if it's 5 years ago,
It
then you
wasn't,
almost certainly have got a good amount of insulation on there. If it was
It's longer
25
than-
years ago, harder to
It was
know.
somewhere between
almost
5
sure
and
it's in
25.
between. Yeah, I'm almost sure it's in between. So it's
Right,
not
if it was
5. it's not
25, it would be
25.
leaking.
And there are some leaks, my guess, these membrane roofs, Dave, what's the life on a membrane roof? Maybe 20 years?
Well-
Yeah, most of them have a 20 to 25-year warranty.
Hey,
Great and fireworks that way.
If you, I mean, depending what you're buying, but and if you're not on them very much, they can last a long, long time. But as John is suggesting, the energy code is improved. And so when you replace them, you improve your insulation. I've lived in town for a little over 20 years and I can't remember that construction there.
If that roof is 15 years old, you should
Work
just
we're doing.
pull it off and put some insulation on there, and we should still do the core, so we know how much insulation is there. You do the scan, you know whether the insulation is wet or not and where, and then we can, because you can save, usually you can save the insulation. You know, if there's 3 inches there, you can put 2 more inches down.
I would think that would be worth doing. I think,
Yeah.
investigating, having an investigation on the roof, period. I think it's likely that the roof surface is gonna need to be replaced. It absolutely will if we're talking about putting solar panels on it. And if we're talking about putting solar panels on it, we do need to figure out the structural capacity.
We will definitely need to do that.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's on their list, the structural engineers list.
Well, I think there was a
We didn't-
proposal that was talking about doing that, but at the time, we had been
Pulled
saying,
it
oh,
out,
we're not
right?
gonna do the solar panels there,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
We pulled it off.
Yeah,
Well, okay, but hold that thought. We're gonna talk about roofs, and the
Okay.
structure stuff
Okay.
a little bit
so
later.
right now, the post office, just for the notes, Jeff, you're gonna try to organize a meeting with Aaron and John.
Yeah, and
No
you're
one-
gone next week?
Wanted to.
Are
Excuse me?
you gone? Yeah.
No, I'm not.
And is Andrew back next week?
Andrew is back
Okay.
next week.
Maybe towards the end of the week. She seems to be pretty available.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm out Tuesday, but,
Mhm,
and my calendar's filling up.
mhm.
I did learn earlier this year, there was 1 week where I've had too many meetings. I mean, you can't just.
You just realized that?
You can't.
Can't just
squeeze
say
them in.
yes to everything.
Just because there's a slot on your calendar, you can't just put another meeting in there. You go absolutely nuts. You need to
Well,
actually
do you want to
process stuff.
do you want to pick a time right now, John, that you and I could meet? And
No,
See
we
if
should,
Aaron-
we should just talk in the morning and try to
Okay.
find that time.
Okay.
So. All right,
Right,
So this discussion about the roof impacts the discussion about the wall assembly. Because to a certain
little.
degree, so you wouldn't want to, you wouldn't want to go to extraordinary measures on the wall assembly to gain a little bit of efficiency if you could put that money towards, a lot more insulation in the roof.
so, I think even if we weren't doing anything to the walls, we'd still be asking these questions about the roof, because the question becomes, do you want to include money in this bond proposal to replace the roof?
right.
The last thing you want to do is do all this work and then 4 years from now, ask to do
We
the
have
roof,
to do the roof, yeah,
I
yeah.
especially
would
with new panels. on
I
it.
would suggest yes
Mhm.
on the roof, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's.
I think it's a
likely.
good working theory until we learn information that
Yep.
says, gosh, that roof was just done, nobody noticed it, but it was just done 5 years ago and it's got
Yeah.
6 inches of insulation in there and it's
Yeah.
perfectly dry.
Yep.
But I don't
Linda
think
would
that's gonna be the
I
case.
bet Linda might
She might
remember,
know.
or a window, a date window.
So we should move on, I guess it's.
Yeah.
Okay.
The front building entrance, where Andrew is just suggesting that with, this part of the building here where the canopy is, and
Yep.
the post office and its the entrance in. As the bell tower, we're not suggesting doing much there than maybe doing some painting.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I love the picture that Linda have of what it looked like before that. It was awful.
Yeah,
It was really terrible.
yeah,
There's probably a blank wall on this
It
side.
was. It looked like a loading dock. It was where
As
the
Andrew
kids went.
said here, maybe you put another window on there depending on how the
Yeah.
revisions happen in the lobby of the
Right.
post office. But in general, we're not out here to change the way this
I
part of the
think that'd be
building
fine.
looks.
Sidewalk,
So,
yeah.
how the sidewalks in.
right, and that's all part of the site plan that we
Site
looked at.
plan stuff, yes,
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah.
That one was easy.
yeah,
So the basement windows. Let me see here if I can find,
I talked to Jake a little bit about this. I think that your choices were, put new windows in, have blank opaque panels like we have now, or have some kind of it's problematic.
no,
Hey.
sorry,
Hey, we can do some efficiency gains on this.
I don't know why you don't have. better, I don't know, I don't have better pictures here of this, but, you know, so here's some of the openings
Yeah,
back there. that are
it's
filled
not
in.
hard to picture. They're beautiful at the moment. I really love them.
The
They're-
painting?
The paintings, they're
Yeah.
really nice.
Right.
And it's actually nice, community art space.
Right.
That,
So,
of course, we want to radiate.
let's just talk this whole thing through.
Okay.
About the flood vents.
Mhm.
They're required.
Mhm.
There are a couple exceptions we'll get into in a minute. The odd thing about it is that where the ground is there is above the floodplain,
Right.
the flood elevation.
Mhm.
So even if it floods, as long as it doesn't exceed what is assumed to be the floodplain elevation,
Mhm.
there's no water that's gonna go in those vents. Because they're up above
Right.
that.
Is that problematic? You know, it isn't, even during Irene, for one, even during Irene, it did not hit the building.
Right.
And even then, if it were, it's not like the river. It's rising water,
Right.
which is a different thing, you know, so,
Right.
there isn't like side pressure from.
So it's required that you have them generally.
Mhm.
There is an exception for historic buildings.
Mhm.
And so I think you would, you know, so this is what Andrew's saying here, option 2, if citing historical significance exemption, we could bypass those. And,
One of
I mean, we
the-
would still put the pressure valves on the floor. So if the water pressure was building up from underneath,
Yeah.
it would release those and the water would fill it up so that it doesn't try to float the building.
Good.
Which is
Right.
bad.
Yeah.
And you definitely, that basement floor is down where that could potentially happen.
Mhm.
So.
That's
That's
essentially what happened during Irene, actually. It came up
Yeah.
through the toilit.
exactly, so you only had
Yeah.
one and it worked,
Yeah.
but we put more.
We
in.
had one pressure valve and it was the toilet. Yes.
It probably also had some sewage that came with it,
Oh,
but,
yeah.
which these other ones would not.
Yeah.
So anyway, if I go back here to this sheet, it says option 1, if providing flood mitigation, installing gates in the openings would be needed. Gates would take the lower half of the opening and upper half would be infilled panel with improved thermal performance. So you could just fill kind of half of that opening
Uh-huh.
for most of them. There's a certain amount of area of floodgate that you have to put in. You could also, I guess, fill in all of half of them as opposed to half of all of them. And then you could leave some of them that are the painted ones that you like.
Mhm.
You could, if you're not required to do this, because you're taking the exemption, you could still put a couple in spots that say, you know, like back here where this picture is, right? Where nobody's really looking at them and it doesn't make that much of a
There's gonna
difference.
be a stairwell there anyway, right?
Well, you're right. In this place, this is probably not the right spot to do it,
Yeah.
but there's others
Yeah.
when
It's to
you,
the front of the building. There's definitely.
right, I mean, you know, so,
They're
you know,
very
so
noticeable.
around over here perhaps. Right, on this side might be a good spot, you know, or over here.
How many do you need for those gates? Do you need them in every window?
That's essentially, that's what Andrew's suggesting here, is you take the lower half of all of them.
Mhm.
Or as I said, then, so, you know, half of all of them or all of half
All
of
of
them.
half of them. You need some square footage of
A certain
gates.
square footage, so that's
Okay.
about right. Or you take your exemption and you don't do any, or you take your exemption and you just put them in wherever you feel like it.
Mhm.
Do we think? So on the one hand, we're trying not to get historic designation, so we don't have to go through a lot of
Mhm.
the rigmarole with funding.
Right.
And whatnot. And on the other hand, if we go to a different agency, but they might not talk with one another. It's a possibility. Because this would be, who would we be getting the exemption from?
Oh,
State?
yeah, I think so.
Mhm.
And actually, he was quite receptive. You know, we had a site visit with, I forget what, Keith? I think his name was Keith.
Keith or Devin, yeah, there's like 5 people in that office,
Yeah,
the state office.
and he was quite helpful. We did a site visit. And he had
Devin Coleman? That who we were talking
Deb,
about?
it's that same office, but I think.
Was
Keith
it
worked for-
Historic Preservation Office?
No.
Oh,
This
oh.
was floodplain management.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh.
okay,
Right,
that's
it-
different.
Right,
It's like the Department of Environmental Conservation somewhere, I think.
Oh, okay, so he's different.
And it was specifically about floodplain. We wanted to determine whether or not we could do anything with this building.
Mhm.
Because it was in a floodplain, and what we determined is the most stringent regulations were our local ones.
right.
Mhm.
And yes, we could do it, but it would either have to be dry flood-proofed or wet flood-proofed. And what you're talking about here is wet.
We are talking about wet flood proofing here. And so that's the valves in the floor and the floodgates and the window openings.
Yeah.
So, and again, so just to throw more things on the table before we kind of work our way through it, is if you're not gonna put the floodgates in, then what do you want those openings to look like? Do you put them back to looking like the windows that they originally were, which is kind of, they don't have to, they can be modern windows that are more energy efficient
Right,
and whatnot,
but would
But why put
historically
it
look
in?
more like the building looked when it was built.
would. But
Why put a window in
what are you putting a
house?
window into?
Yeah.
You're putting a window down into something that you're not only allowed to have storage in.
Right,
So do you put the windows in and then put opaque glass in them, or you paint them over, or you put obscure glass, or?
they still have to be openings, you can't just.
No,
brick
they
them
could be
in.
fixed, they could be fixed windows. I mean, you
No,
could,
I mean, could they be bricked
Become a
over,
wall.
become a wall,
I think, it's your building.
yeah.
So, I mean, I personally, I like the way they look now, I
Or they're
mean,
bricked
Not
in.
like the way they.
You do
look at
not like the
all,
way they-
No, and I hate the art, I like the art, I hate how it's displayed. I
okay.
think there would be a more elegant and wonderful way to have some art, community art, but I don't
That's
like
fair.
that.
That's fair.
I'm also wondering if, according to like in option one, so the floodgates would only be used unless you have a flood beyond 100-year predictions.
Right.
Well, our 100-year predictions are pretty quickly going out the windows in this time and space. So do we want to protect the building, knowing the environment that we're living in and knowing that some of our old predictions may not hold,
Mhm.
forgive
Another
the pun,
prudent-
hold water anymore?
Prudent-
Yeah.
a Prudent choice rather than the,
Right.
Well, if we
Yeah.
do half the window opening with floodgates and the other half opaque, that's not gonna look very original either.
no,
No, it's not gonna look original at all.
Yeah.
no, and that's, I'm back to that historic. I think, just based on the funders conference and other things like that CDS money.
Mhm.
They're gonna require us to put windows
They
in
will.
there if we get that $500,000. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that would, I think you're right.
They are gonna require that because of reading the Secretary of the Interior's.
Yeah.
They would probably allow you to put something other than clear glass in.
Well, right, you could do opaque or etched glass or some,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah. But that might be more than just putting it.
Right, but I don't think they would be, and I don't think they would be operable windows necessarily.
No,
I think there
not with
probably
its
needs to be
only
an egress
storage.
down there somewhere.
Yeah, okay, so we can do
If
that.
you're-
something,
If you're putting people down there for anything. if
even
somebody's
storage, yeah, I
storing.
think even storage.
Yeah,
you'd
you'd
have to have some. And
Okay, but again, and we'll look
But
at this, but you are putting a new stair in that could potentially go down to the basement,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where is that?
and that would be up a half a flight and out the door, and you'd be safe.
Mm-hmm.
That we're,
I don't
well,
even know.
Anyway,
I'm trying to think in the
well,
basement.
the basement is, you go down the steps, so the radiate classroom was underneath
There is,
here.
so.
And then across the hall was there's a storage room or
storage,
something there.
It's where the, I think it's where the softball stuff, is,
Mhm.
yeah,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think you could easily, you should be able to extend that down to the basement.
And I think there is an ingress door down there actually in that room.
I think it's in one of the window openings
Yeah.
there.
mhm.
So that's all possible too. So, again, we're looking on direction on where to go. To start with, we're gonna define a scope of the work. We're gonna get some estimates for it.
Mhm.
You guys will have another chance to say, well, maybe we don't want to do that, but
So, it would seem wise to me to pick at this point, pick the most expensive option. which I'm assuming would be windows.
The
Probably.
most expensive option, yeah.
You know, and this might be one of those places with that value engineer, you know, later down the line. But as far as, you know, if one of our purposes here is to make some decisions so that we can do cost
Move forward,
estimating.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna guess even more expensive would be floodgates on the
Yeah,
bottom
yeah,
half of
the
every
floodgate.
window and a half a window above.
Because you're doing
How do you
both,
do that though?
you're doing both pieces.
Exactly.
You know, I don't.
I don't, you know, if we're not, I mean, this is one of those places where I might take the historical significance exemption
Right.
because we're still protecting the basement. We know we can't put anything down there. We're putting in the pressure valve. So it's not gonna have the walls caving in or anything like that. And
So flood
But-
comes, just go and open the windows.
well,
You're gonna have these pressure valves, they're gonna let the water up from
Yeah.
below. I mean, again, and that's why I was suggesting even you could potentially put a couple of floodgates in.
right, that's where I
That
was going.
Allows the water in
If it
more
really
slowly,
flooded
but at
all the
least.
way, and if it really flooded all the way, it's
Right.
Mhm.
got somewhere to go. I
That
mean,
makes sense. So
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
is that an
But it
answer?
doesn't make-
no, Dave,
If I understand this right, the pressure valves in the basement protect the building. The floodgates, I thought when the structural engineer was Kevin, I guess, was talking about it, I thought they were required, and maybe they are unless you take the historical exemption, correct?
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
And
So
so,
the other aspect of this is the windows and the idea of the windows, not that we have them now, are really, if it were occupied space, how, you know, it'd be wonderful to have the windows back. But now we're talking about it not being occupied space. You know, I think I wouldn't be surprised if we end up infilling them with brick in at some point in the process of this. But I do agree with Jeff's position that let's estimate it at the most expensive option. But you know, the way my mind's running is we need to protect the building. We're going to do that with the pressure valves. B, you know, we're either going to do what the floodplain requires, doing construction in a floodplain. And you know, I don't know, maybe we're going to end up infilling them with the gates. Yeah.
That would, the building looks significantly different, it would seem to me.
what's that?
Yeah.
To have brick infill for those windows, that's
Well, I
a
mean,
very
we
tall
go out there and
foundation.
look, but I think there's a good number of them that are infilled with brick already.
No, well, yeah, there is on the parking.
yeah,
lot.
there are on the part, yeah.
But, you know,
Did you notice where the bell tower met the building? They infilled a window there.
Uh-huh.
The bell tower, the one here at the front,
Yeah.
at the front here along the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah, that photograph you showed us. I noticed.
The photo of the.
I'm not saying that it's a great idea or that they you know, they look great, but
Yeah.
can you show us the facade with the bell tower?
I'm looking to see if I have that one here.
When we were talking post office, you showed us that.
here, let me move this. Let me move this.
Here's one with there's at the vault.
You know, when we were talking about the post office, you have you have one.
I think I know what you,
entrance, the picture of the entrance of the building, when you asked if we wanted to change it.
this one.
Yeah,
Yep, that's it.
you see right where the roof line is.
Yeah.
Oh, right
I'm pretty
here.
sure that
Above, yeah,
that used to be a window. You know.
yes. Right,
So if you were to do it all the way around the building, it means like essentially it'd be a tall foundation.
Mhm.
It would look like a tall foundation, I think, right? You know,
Right.
Yeah.
essentially a half a story.
Of brick,
Oh,
of brick
I'm sorry.
foundation,
Jeez.
yeah.
I somehow lost my screen sharing, huh?
Uh-oh.
No, I think the window just collapsed. Jeff,
Oh, I
go
see.
back
How do I
to-
do that?
Send me.
On the
Uh,
right-hand
I
corner,
think Jeff.
Go
did
back
that.
to the
It's,
view.
it's
see the
my
view-
fault.
See
I
the
don't know.
view
Uh-oh.
button up at the top in the top right?
I'm gonna
There
stop
we go.
sharing and then we'll try this again.
Okay,
Mhm.
it's not that. There we go. Sorry.
There
Um,
we go. Yeah, there was
yeah,
a
see-
window right above the roof that was filled in.
But again, when you look at the basement level or along the ground level, you can see even here where it's just an ugly
Yeah.
infill with holes for utilities, at least it maintains that rhythm of an opening. If you were to fill all those down on the ground in with the red brick,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna look like a very big, just blank brick
Blank
wall
wall.
there. So I would say, no matter what you do, you're gonna wanna recess it a little bit, so you maintain that existing opening.
Mm,
And then there's different ways of doing that. You could do it with the same material, you could do it with a different colored brick. You know, so it's lighter colored, so you still get the rhythm and the feeling
Could
of the
make it
window
a- yeah.
openings.
Make it an architectural feature instead of,
Right. As
just
opposed
filling
to
it
just
in with
windows.
red
I mean,
brick.
you know, what's nice about that is that you can now insulate it. You've
Yeah.
improved the envelope down there.
Well, so I'll say my least favorite is the half window option.
Yeah, I don't like
yeah,
that
that's
either.
my least favorite
That
too.
would be my least favorite, you know,
Either
it's-
all windows or this whole idea of filling it in, but making it
or
interesting.
something, you know, make it something.
Yeah,
I mean, if you did the floodgates on the bottom half of each window, they would be a certain color.
yeah.
And then you could,
Would it have to be half or is it narrower?
they're really pretty.
Makes more sense to be half though.
So what I don't understand is why,
Are you having trouble with,
it says I'm screen sharing, yet it's not putting on there
Moving.
what is on my screen.
oh, I don't know how to do that. There you go. No,
Mm,
Well, that's me stopping sharing and then I'm gonna try to
Uh-huh.
do
oh,
this again. Yeah, this isn't
yeah,
going
these
that
things look
well.
terrible. You know,
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at what floodgates look like.
Oh, yeah.
Can we cite historical significance without,
That's
without-
them.
can we cite historical significance without you know, being a even if we're not, you know, taking historical preservation money?
I believe that is true.
Yeah,
Okay,
Because it's two different sets of regulations. It's a floodplain type of ruling that says if you're listed on whatever registered,
yeah, which
No,
we are on the
it
state,
doesn't require you to.
the state register, not the
Exactly,
national.
right.
You can-
And so if you're eligible for that exemption, you can take that exemption. It doesn't mean anything beyond that in terms of
Right,
preservation requirements that are based on your funding
Mhm.
source.
yes, our funding sources might require
It's very possible as well.
more attention to what happens.
Yeah.
So,
Then
you
my-
know, if you did, go ahead, Dave, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, my gut is to take that loophole. But
Yeah.
I think it's a good option as well. You know, we actually kill two birds with a stone. If we even take the exemption there and we do windows, then we solve both problems really, you know, so,
I mean, yeah,
you know,
if we take the exemption, we have more options in what to do with the existing window holes. Than if we
Seam.
commit to
You
putting
would.
in floodgates,
Right,
then you're gonna have to have a certain number of floodgates and you have to.
right.
so, I guess our preference is, 4B to I.
All right,
Yeah,
start with.
Okay.
I mean, again, that's
Yeah.
they're giving me direction, which is
Yeah.
really good.
thanks for
Um,
talking us through that. That's not an easy one.
no,
No, I mean, yeah, I'm gonna talk to Andrew about this. He at least put this together before he left. Yeah, we're at 7:30 and we're almost at the bottom of page 1. So. So this is getting into the net zero scope envelope upgrades. Are we gonna do you want to look into putting solar panels on the post office roof?
I would, but I don't know. You know, Andrew was asking me, I put, I picked an arbitrary number of 50 kW just because it's a nice round number. I did get, a back of the envelope quote from a solar installer that we could probably fit 30 kW on this roof.
Okay.
And my guess is we could probably put close to 20 kW on the post office roof. Depending whether it's structurally can handle it. The difference between putting it on this roof has a fairly significant slope, so you can attach it to the rafters. If you put it on a flat roof, it has to be relatively flat, and so the wind doesn't pick it up and blow it off the building. And in order to hold it down, you have to put ballast. You have to put like cinder blocks on it. So structurally, it's a different thing, on a flat roof. And I don't know about that. So and I think our structural engineer, we took the roof evaluation of the post office
Right,
off
but
the table.
I'm going to insist that we revisit this.
Okay,
Yeah.
So let me just start here. Let's start with this roof again.
okay,
So we looked at the number and location of the solar panels that are being suggested to put on the old roof, on this roof above where we're sitting.
Mhm.
And we looked at the weight of those.
Mhm.
They are quite light.
Yep.
When you attach them to a roof like that.
Yep.
They would be below the amount of additional load that would require you to do anything to this roof, even assess it.
That's good news.
So so the engineer is even suggesting that given the fact that there have been upgrades there in the past.
Yep.
That they see absolutely no signs of stress on any of the members up there,
That's right, yeah.
that. They're also saying that if you do have them go through with the analysis that you asked them to do before.
They'll say no.
No, they're gonna say that it's likely to reveal that the structure doesn't meet the code as it's written now.
Right.
But if you don't do it, it's fine, and they have absolutely no problem telling you that you.
You'd be turning off
Don't
off the recording right now.
No, this happens all the
I
time.
know.
So, it's kind of making something that's clearly working, has worked for a long time, and
Right.
it's going to continue to work.
Mhm.
Have to actually now be built as if it were new, according to the current code.
Mhm.
And it's just not necessarily necessary.
Mhm.
And so you're better off, in my opinion, in my thinking, to go ahead and look at the post office roof. If you think it's important to put the solar panels on that roof, if they're going to be a
Right.
sufficient orientation to get you the electrical generation that you
We
want.
won't, so even 50 kW will not, I think Andrew estimated to be about a quarter of our
Yeah,
electric load, something
I
like.
think that was for this up here, so you might get
So,
to
maybe we get to half, that would make,
Yeah.
and
45% or something.
something like that. Which is, better than nothing.
So
Right.
given that, you may, again, I don't know if you have enough quorum to change this or to make recommendations, or if the select board has to actually approve spending that money. I think it was less money to do the structural analysis on the post office roof than it
Yeah.
was for this.
Was.
So what you're suggesting is shifting the money that we were gonna spend on the structural analysis of the existing, of this building and put it towards the post office.
Right, and doing perhaps the infrared and the coring of the roof to find out just what kind of roof you have down there.
Will that be enough?
I don't know,
Okay, I mean,
so
so
we can find out how much.
find out how much
It's pretty simple. I mean, the coring is not usually very much, and if anything,
it might be different kinds of people, roofing.
well, it's a roofing contractor to cut the hole in the roof. It's the infrared would be just
Yeah.
somebody that does scanning.
So, I like that, I think
Makes
that would be worth doing.
Mhm.
I think the canopy, is that the next question?
Yeah.
canopy.
The canopy.
No, I think that's a
Well,
no.
that was on here as 5A.
My suggestion, it's counterintuitive probably. Canopies are lovely, but they really add a lot of complication to plowing.
I was gonna say, I personally think that would not fly with the voters.
I,
Because I think people are not gonna understand it in mowing and,
as much as I would love
Plowing.
more solar,
yeah.
for one, I don't think it's a very good parking lot for it because the buildings are all around it and there's a lot of
And there's
trees,
a lot of
trees, too.
and a lot of trees,
And we're planning to put more trees,
right? And number two, it really complicates plowing.
yeah.
I don't think Pete would like it.
Well, he's not doing it anymore. Oh, he's doing the plowing.
Yeah.
He's not doing the mowing anymore.
Right.
The mowers would not like whatever the median mowing is.
Unless anybody has any objections, I would suggest no on the canopy.
Hmm.
Yeah, if we're going to put things on this roof and the post office roof, I think,
I
yeah,
think
no.
we're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think
I
that's,
agree.
Yeah.
I think that I, if I could paraphrase what the attitude has been of late for this committee, it's been, not necessarily net zero, but the best we can do,
Mhm.
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay, that gets us down to item C on the top of page 2 envelope. This is mostly just kind of telling you what we're assuming
Yep.
and getting your confirmation or blessing. So
Mhm.
the walls, we're assuming that the cellulose that was put in here, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or,
It was less than that. It was probably about 10, 12 years,
Yeah.
but it still will have settled.
right, it was, so we're suggesting that we include in the scope, punching the holes in, repacking it in there.
Yep.
The windows, we've talked about replacing them, air sealing around them, tightening them up. Inquiring about 2 tiers of windows, baseline double pane versus triple pane.
Ooh,
We're looking at those options right now, and I noticed that I got an email from one of the reps just
Yeah.
yesterday. I haven't had a chance to call him back. If I wait one more day, Andrew can do it when he gets back.
David, you might have an opinion on this. So the difference is, so windows, the R value of a single pane window is 1.
Yeah.
Okay, the R value of a double pane window can go to R2, maybe R3 with a pretty good window. You don't really use R values, but it's the same kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah,
Isn't that right, David? And then, a triple pane window, you might be able to get up to R6. Something like that. They're super
Yeah.
duper. Yeah, go ahead, David.
you're walking me through it. I'm listening. I'm familiar with this. Yeah,
So, and they're a lot more expensive, my understanding.
Yeah.
Like,
That's what we're inquiring about.
Yeah.
Is to see
Yeah.
kind of
so,
what's the
if
benefit.
we were being true to our net zero goal,
Have to
you'd
go
want to
to
do
triple.
you'd want to go triple. Is it
When-
necessary? No.
yeah. I think my understanding is that when it comes to windows, it's all about air seal.
Yeah, I think you're
You know,
right.
I mean, obviously you want to avoid single pane, but a properly installed double pane is where you get your bang for buck, right?
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, again,
I don't
you've
know.
asked us to look at some energy modeling. It's
Yeah.
an easy one to put
look
in
at, yeah,
there.
you can look
To
at
see what the difference.
Yeah, my concern is that there are a lot of the wall on this building is window. There's more
true.
window than wall on this.
Yeah.
So,
Not quite, but yeah, you know what you mean.
I mean, a lot of
Yeah,
it,
there's
there's
a lot.
60 windows and they're big.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of, I think it's worth at least looking at the cost difference.
So is that something you can do? Can you? look at the cost?
We're in the process of doing
Okay.
that. If we talk to the window
And,
suppliers.
the other
Mm,
thing for me is I don't know exactly, I can't remember off the top of my head how much we spend on heating this building,
mm.
but it's not like super duper amount, it's like, $15,000 maybe,
Let's try to
10
cut that in half.
huh?
Let's try to cut that in half.
I was gonna
Right.
say with
So
our
you-
new.
so you
with the
cut
new
that in
restaurant.
half.
Yeah,
So you cut that in half
yeah.
and, you spend an extra $200,000 on windows. You're never gonna get that back.
Right.
know?
Well, I think that's what we have to
So
look
that's what we
at.
want to look at. You're
Is
right.
it really gonna be $100,000 to $200,000 more?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, these aren't tiny windows, so
No.
it might be,
Yeah,
but let's find out. I mean, we're just guessing right now.
I think
Um,
what I'm most interested in the windows is functionality. So the biggest concern for me is on the windows, because no matter what we do, we're gonna make the windows a whole lot better,
Right.
like a
Yeah.
whole lot better.
yeah.
And in both in infiltration and we have to put storms on them if we don't of some sort, either interior or exterior storms. And they work pretty well, I think Ben characterized it the other day as, you might not get, 100% as much as you get with the new replacement window, but if you get 80 or 90%, that's pretty close. And I think that's probably true, but if the exterior storm windows are like super problematic. I mean,
Right.
we got the
Yeah.
the poster child of bad exterior storm windows right now,
And they're not openable.
and they're not operable much, a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're terrible.
Right.
And the interior storm windows, which actually work better, they're hard to deal with, because they're,
Especially with the size of the windows.
yeah, they're hard to deal with, and if you do want to take any down, then where do you put them?
Yeah,
So,
Right. So anyway, we're gonna look into, those options, but I
Okay.
think, I'm glad you're open to kind of
Mhm.
not just doing it because it's a better window. you know,
Yep.
and the attic here, we're gonna keep as it is. You've kind of sealed up at the edges already and you've got lots of cellulose up there and
Mhm.
so. We talked about the post office already.
Mhm.
So sprinkler
how
system,
about that rock roll insulation at the rim joist? So so that's down at the basement level you're talking about, or?
yeah, well, probably here too,
So how would you do that? You'd have to open up the cavity there somehow?
quite possibly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So, again, the biggest bang that, in my experience that you can get out of efficiency on a building is the basement band joists,
Yeah,
and the ceiling.
Right, if we do an infrared scan on that roof, it might be good to try to see what it looks like on that, where this second floor framing goes into the wall.
It would be interesting, yeah.
It would, because, I mean, certainly it's easy enough to put that insulation in
What
where
you
the
could
first
find-
floor is above the basement.
What you could find from the original drawings, which Andrew does have, is whether it's balloon framed and if there's any blocking in it. There might not be,
Right.
John, I'm sorry, do we know how much fiberglass versus cellulose we have in the attic, or what's our estimated R value up there?
This is saying, Andrew's notes say it's greater than 14 inches.
Right, but
cellulose-
it's different. If it's different, though, if it's 14 inches of cellulose versus two layers of fiberglass.
I don't think it's 2 layers of fiberglass. I think it's a layer of fiberglass and then cellulose on top of that.
So are we confident that we're doing as well as we can in the attic? Because like Jeff just said, you're right at your building sill and your ceiling / attic are they're your big money returns.
I talked to the installer of that. It was Gary Bresser's son. And what they did is they took the fiberglass and they piled it up in the center of the room. They air sealed from above by doing foam on the entire surface. They
yeah.
relayed the fiberglass and then they put up 300 bags of cellulose. I mean, we could add some cellulose, which wouldn't add much. cost.
No, we can add as much cellulose as you like. I
There's
mean,
a lot of room up there for it, but.
right. When we're doing our energy modeling, we'll
Right.
have them plug in,
Yeah.
12 more inches of cellulose and see what happens.
Right. At some point, it's a diminishing return
Yeah.
for what you put in there,
Right.
though.
Deal was the air sealing. They did that foam air sealing that went, I think it's on the entire ceiling surface and around the edges. it virtually eliminated the icicles, which was that was the goal.
Yes,
Mm,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah, the air leakage is so much of a bigger deal than the.
Right. Right.
All right, so moving on, number 6.
Okay,
yeah,
Sprinkler system. We're gonna ask the question one more time. We've checked and double checked the height and area limits of this building. We're confident that it's not going to be required to put a sprinkler system in.
mhm,
Hmm.
So now there is some value having a sprinkler system. It
mhm.
protects, really, it protects the building more than the people in it,
Right.
Mhm.
right? I mean, though it's
Right, 'cause-
reassuring to know there's a
Yep.
sprinkler system.
We definitely want an upgraded fire alarm system.
I think we'll say, yes, we're gonna do a new fire alarm system. That's fine. But the sprinkler system is a property insurance thing. Right? It protects the property. And even then, where the sprinkler head goes off, you're gonna have a lot of water damage.
Yeah,
So, and probably a little bit of fire or smoke, because somebody lit a fire in that corner and the sprinkler in this room went off.
yeah,
But it's not, but the whole building doesn't burn down to the ground, and you don't have, newspapers in all of New England showing the blaze. It was the Richmond Town Hall.
yeah.
The most interesting aspect of this to me was what it does potentially to the stairwell. What does it do to the stairwell?
I don't know for sure. I mean, that would be kind of a negotiation. I mean, to what extent do we want to try to open up that old stairwell? You had doors kind of plastered
It's
across
terrible,
it because
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
really bad.
I believe that you could get rid of the doors at either upstairs here or down at the main level. But
Okay,
that's a pretty significant cost to do that.
To do.
Um,
sprinkler
If to
doors out.
to get rid of that is because you sprinkled the whole building.
Okay,
you know. I think,
I'm also a little concerned about the Historical Society being in here. And how are we gonna protect anything that they have?
also, both sprinkler and fire is probably gonna trash
Oh, that's
most of it,
true.
No matter what it is, it's gonna
Right,
probably.
so
Either
if
water
there's-
gets it or the fire
Well,
gets
they've
it.
got some stuff in the vault, actually.
Well, the vault, you don't want a water sprinkler system in there
No, 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 but they
regardless.
do.
You're
but
gonna want a different kind of.
Observe that our vault isn't airtight because there's a hole in it.
She did notice that. I haven't had a chance to get down there and look. I want to know what the ceiling is made out of too, whether it's a concrete slab or not, but
I don't know.
it's
Yeah.
very possible that it is. Given that it's all masonry around it and there's a fire rating to it. Sometimes, I mean, if it's a little crack at the bottom of the door, it's not gonna be that big, maybe a little smoke gets in there, but
Or water.
more water, but again,
I-
hopefully everything's up off the floor.
Yeah.
I'm of two minds of this, that. Opening up the stairwell, I think would be interesting. I mean, I really don't like the door.
I know.
Down on the second floor. However, it's functional because it blocks off. That whole area that you can lock off.
Well, there's a whole security issue that's not about that door and the fact that
So that's
there
something.
was a lot of concern expressed about security.
That door is open right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know, yeah, but but
But is it,
it's-
are they on magnetic hold open devices or does
No.
somebody just have a chair in front of them?
yeah, no, they're not.
But we could put them on a magnetic hold open device with the new fire alarm system so that their doors at least are open. Most of the time, when the fire alarm goes off, the doors close
It's
automatically.
not really, I mean, my problem with the wall is more aesthetic.
It's mine too, but
yeah.
And it was cool. I mean, I remember when it was a school and it was the stairs are cool. That they have the,
They go all the way, when it
Yeah.
was open and they went all the way up. Yeah, yeah.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't price out what a sprinkler system would cost. I think our fire department that would be something that they would raise. Because every fire department everywhere they want sprinklers in houses.
I know.
Um,
I think we should price it out, but we're not, knowing that we're not required.
It's helpful.
To
So this
do
might
it.
be one of our value engineering
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
options. I
yeah.
don't know. Do you have a feeling on that, David?
My feeling is if we don't need it, then we shouldn't install it, because I don't think it does a lot for us to protect the property. I can't wrap my head around what it does to the aesthetics of the stairwell, unfortunately. I did, but it's not huge, but still not a significant system that we're installing. It wasn't there before. It's going to drive price,
And it does
six
have.
fig-
a component,
six figures,
Post office too.
right,
I mean, if
So-
this building is 20,000 square feet,
Yeah.
you're looking at maybe, gosh, it's even hard to know. It used to be, we used to say $3 or $4 a square foot, but it's probably twice that.
Yeah,
So if
I'm
it's
thinking
six-
$100,000.
6 times 20 is 1,000 is 120, and then you got a sprinkler entrance and, so you're up to, $125,000, $130,000.
So should we just, this would be a good one to make a decision on because it does kind of drive some design. Should we just say no? No sprinkler? What do we think about that? I mean, you're asking.
I was asking it.
You're asking, so we could give an answer. And maybe,
I don't know how I feel about it, quite honestly.
I don't mind giving you another meeting to think about it too,
The
but
aesthetic thing,
stairwell thing?
yes, I would love to have it be more the grand stairwell,
Mhm.
sort of. That it used to be when it was
Mhm.
a school,
right.
but is that worth
There's some-
$200,000? I don't know.
Can you do that?
Well, let's say 150. But
We can't do it regardless because you have to have the doors, right?
Oh, okay.
Fire
You
doors.
do need to enclose the
Have to
stairs.
Okay.
Okay,
We have to provide a separation between one floor and the next.
you either have to sprinkle it or you
Yeah,
have to.
we need to actually go through the code again, and just to make sure of that. I mean, it gets complicated with the code, but I think that once you've sprinkled the building, you get a lot more leeway. You also get a lot more leeway for a historic building that you might not otherwise. So
So we're back to our historic building exemption question.
no, I mean, the other thing to remember though is that, the sprinkler pipes are
Yeah.
not aesthetically free
No,
either.
they're gonna interfere with. the
They're all
concept.
over the place. Now, the
Yeah.
good news is they're up high in the ceiling and most people don't even notice them anymore. And we've got a big conference room in our office and there's sprinkler pipes that go right across and they're exposed. And yet, I was in a meeting once, there was a church, something on a church, and I said, the group, I said, don't anybody look up. Is this room sprinkled? And not one of them could tell me whether the room was sprinkled or
Right.
not. So
Right.
people get used to it pretty quick. But on the other hand, we're exposing some of the tin ceilings here and whatnot, and you kind of open this back up and now you've got sprinkler pipes.
Sprinkler pipes, yeah.
Well, and we might, they're entirely
You-
possible.
You need the sprinkler risers someplace too. So they're either going to go up the stairs or up the back way. And
And-
it's not a huge deal, but you also have to test either semi-annually or annually. I don't know what it would be.
That's
Again,
Maintenance,
not a
there's
huge,
inspection.
You would also need in this building then a part of it would be a dry system. Because
Mhm,
you're not gonna put the water up in the attic,
right,
So
and that has to be tested
I
even
s-
more and
they know.
pressurized.
I think this could be an area where somebody asks us whether we, should we have done it? And did you consider? And we are
Mhm.
considering, and if our decision is based on cost effectiveness, that I think that would play well.
I think it's cost, it's also all these other things, maintenance, and what is it really protecting,
Yeah,
which is a question. 'Cause
yeah, it's not,
even if
I think
it's-
you must have a fire suppression system in the vault already. If you don't, I'm gonna recommend that you do put one in there,
okay,
but it'd be a non-water one.
don't know.
Yeah, that's the question for Linda.
Might wanna check on
I
that.
wrote that down.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
cost,
so-
it's an aesthetic thing.
Yep.
About.
I'm-
The
all
cost
the-
benefit
I'm
is
hearing
not,
that we can't necessarily get away from the door issue downstairs.
Right, but no, I was thinking of the pipes and the whole, that's the aesthetic, maybe the the downside of having to have sprinklers over our nice tin ceilings
Mm.
that we've
Okay.
now exposed.
So I hear no.
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
So the next one is, do you want to extend the stairwell to the basement?
We need an egress down there, so, you know,
And as we thought about it, first we think, oh, yeah, but you know, it's gonna be taking the stair down into the flood area, but your existing stair already does that, so I don't see how it's a problem. I don't know why you
If we,
couldn't.
as long as we can do it and not
that is the low,
floodplain problem, I think we should do it.
it is the lower part of the property,
Yeah,
you know, it's,
Okay,
so like, you know, the floodplain folks might have a problem with that.
they might, we'll double check that, but again, you still have to be, you still have to
don't
meet the building code.
I don't think we care, you know, whichever is more cost effective.
Okay,
This is not an.
there
aesthetic
needs to
issue.
be egress from the basement,
has
but
to
I'm
be
not
one way or the
sure
other.
we care
Right,
how that's done.
it's done.
right, and it's, right, all right, we'll check the code, because it's possible now that you just have storage down there, that you may be able to just have one exit.
Yeah. The fire marshal will have something to say about that.
That's true. On the other hand, you've got a consultant that also knows how to read the
Right.
code.
And it's not an
Well,
occupied
It's not
space.
at all an occupied space, so it's a different use down
I'm
there. than
hoping
it
that we
is
can
now.
open it up. So, you know, it's a warren of different walls
Yeah,
down there.
we're gonna need to get down there when the engineers come by. We need to figure out how that's all framed there and where the supports are and
They were looking
whether
at,
there's any bearing walls throughout parts of this building.
they
And we're
were
gonna get to
looking
that
at
momentarily.
posts, when,
Right.
when
And
they came.
is there sheetrock and stuff down there? There is in the radiator.
Oh, kind of,
space,
it's
right?
all beat up. It's
Gonna have
We're gonna-
to come out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because we can't have any,
I think all of all of this
anything that would
shelving has to
absorb
go.
water has to
Right.
be
Well,
gone.
you
We should
get rid of it now, or you get rid of it after it floods.
We should get
Yeah.
the softball teams and our community cares as a party to take everything out of the basement down there.
Mhm.
Right down to the.
This is a really good community project.
Yeah.
All right.
Boy Scouts.
Nu-
All right,
Number
so
8.
farewell.
Finishes.
It's to move on.
Yeah, I know you guys have other things on your agendas.
Yeah, I know.
We're doing good.
Assuming, so finishes, we're talking about new flooring throughout here where there's carpet, we put more carpet back. I think, or restore the flooring.
I would like that.
I'd love the floor, the wood flooring, but yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So
My only concern is maintenance.
it's actually easier to
I was gonna say,
maintain.
it's probably easier to
Wood-
maintain
wood
wood
is
than
easier.
carpet.
It's, you know, hard surface floors are, they're more hygienic,
Mhm.
Well, yeah,
you know, that
Okay.
this is the worst thing that you can do is these sheet carpet flooring, because, you know,
mhm,
Just let the
Typically
chemicals in
within-
carpet and.
yeah, yeah.
within 2 weeks, somebody drops a bottle of ink on the floor and then you have to.
so there's a
leave it
big
for
stain
10
right there.
Right.
Yeah, I know. That's
And
why
if-
we did tiles in the library. the last
Tiles
time.
actually work much better. But the other thing I would be concerned about is noise. So
Yeah.
it's very noisy downstairs from here. So the town clerk hears, everybody walks and
Even with the carpet.
even with the carpet. So the floor is squeaky. And I don't know if there's any way to deal with that.
It's different than, yeah.
That's not
That's,
surface.
that's different than carpet or
Right.
not.
That's
That's
different.
structural thing, right?
There's acoustics and then there's squeaks.
So
Right.
if we go to tin downstairs, some kind of sound isolation would be better.
Right, all right, so I'm gonna make this note that acoustics
Yeah,
between floors is important.
I know that somebody at the retreat that I went to on energy efficiency said, we exposed all our tin ceilings and then realized it changed the acoustics of
Acoustics, yeah.
every room.
Yeah, if you do
Because they
carpet and
exposed them.
tin ceilings, sound would be an issue.
Right, so
Yeah.
we're gonna get to that, we're gonna get to the
Okay.
ceilings here in a minute.
Okay.
So, you know, the carpet or something that's here, it reduces that
Yeah.
thump, 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 you know,
Right.
the impact noise. But it doesn't necessarily do much for the, you know,
Squeaks.
exactly,
Well,
or voices.
We have squeaky
I think
voices. We have. squeaky-
most, if not, I think all of the ceilings downstairs, except for that main meeting room, are all drop ceilings. And the
Right.
and the existing tin ceilings are really beat up.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of mechanicals through it.
So there's the thumping, which actually, the carpet actually can help that, right? Because you're not hitting the floor so hard.
Mhm.
But it doesn't do as much on absorbing. I mean, you think it might, but it doesn't
Yeah.
really. What you really want to keep the sound from kind of coming through is mass. Which is why if you put like 2 layers of drywall up there, then, and you put it on some resilient fasteners, then you can start to do something, but it gets, it's real. So I need to find out just how important it is to try to eliminate that sound transmission from up here to down below.
So that would be good to talk to Linda about.
Yeah, and remembering that half of this floor is gonna be the police
Yeah,
department,
which actually,
which they're not there all that often.
that's right.
It's not,
There aren't that many of them.
right now, right now, they're not there at all. The Heinsberg guys were here the other day, though, I did
He just
see,
walked out. The
Yeah.
Heinsberg chief just
Yeah.
walked out the door.
Oh, is that who is behind?
Yeah. But, yeah, the use has changed for half of this upstairs.
Right.
space. And then we have the tenants and the 2 meeting spaces up
Yeah,
here.
I mean, and you don't know, it could switch over time as
Yeah.
well.
And the tenant has this problem as well. So, there's several issues and mostly, as far as the surface goes, I think it would be our preference. I'm pretty sure. Maybe with some rugs someplace,
Mhm.
but mostly, but not wall-to-wall carpet anywhere.
Right.
There is squeakiness of the floor, which is problematic for MMCTV. And the isolation of sound between this floor and the downstairs
Yep.
spaces. And you can look at that. I think it's a good idea to look at it in terms of what the uses are up here. Because it might not be such a big issue, I mean, we're using this space a lot now. With a lot of meeting spaces, but
But is
right
it
now it doesn't matter.
used though it's more used at night rather than during the day when
Yeah.
people are working, like nobody's working
But
downstairs
this space
right
is
now.
moving downstairs anyway. So this space, I
Right.
mean, in the new design.
You do have to think about what
This
the
down.
uses are and how many voices and what kind of activities are happening there. It's not gonna be radiate up here with a
Yeah.
room full of kids.
Yeah,
Although they sometimes do camp.
Oh,
And that's,
and does
MMCTV.
radiate bother the people below them, or is it the people below kind of?
oh, MMCTV.
Oh,
MMCTV
not
does
radiate,
camp.
I meant
yeah.
MMCTV.
Yes, it bothers people below. It does.
So they're making enough noise.
Yeah.
To bother.
Linda's right underneath.
Yeah, she's right underneath.
Okay, Right.
So, I mean, it's not a huge issue. Another issue for me, and I don't know if anybody else is getting older, is all of these hard surfaces, I have a really hard time hearing. So as far as being in the space, whatever,
so that's when we get to the ceilings.
yeah. Well, I like tin. I mean, I love. the way it
No,
looks.
yeah, it's great, it looks nice and whatnot,
It's
but
good.
acoustically, it's horrible.
Yeah, is there a way to dampen that? So like, is there any kind of fabric, ways,
What did
things on the
Hatchet do?
walls?
Hatchet had that same problem when they renovated.
They
'cause
put
had
all
tin
the, they
ceiling,
put all
a bunch
the
of
acoustic panels.
panels on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that can help some, but it's that ceiling is what's the noise is reflecting off of first and most. It's what's going up and back down, and it's bothering.
I have that problem with the community room in the library. It's really quite loud. I have a
So,
hard,
like
really hard
in
time.
schools and whatnot, when there's a acoustic problem like that, and even when I put carpet in, I say, don't, it's not the flooring isn't the surface to treat, the ceiling is, because the ceiling is open. It's exposed all the way around. Flooring, you've got hard tables that are covering it up. There's people sitting in there only when it matters,
yeah.
right? If there's nobody in there, then who cares what the acoustics are? But
Mhm.
but the ceiling makes a tremendous difference, and whether you like these suspended ceilings or not, they do a tremendous job acoustically.
Mhm.
Yeah, I hate these.
But they do a tremendous job acoustically.
But that's why they're called,
Beauty or sound mitigation.
Yeah,
that's why they're called acoustic ceiling tiles.
That is exactly
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
But they always look like that.
Well, but I refer to them as leak detection system,
Yeah.
Yeah,
but if you fix the leaks, they don't look like that. And, and they start to crack like that one because
They get wet.
they got wet, or somebody was trying to push it up and
Yeah.
pull it in and out,
So,
they don't break on their own.
yeah, and we can't take the tin out and put something above it.
Well,
But the tin itself. it's the
again,
tin
there's
surface, it's the
transmission and then
reflection,
there's, so,
bounce.
the tin, you could put something in between the tin and the floor above. And it
That
would
might
help a
dampen the
lot,
sound.
keeping
That
the
would-
people
Yeah, that's-
separating the noise from
yeah,
the up
yeah.
here from down below.
Yeah.
But it won't
But it
make it.
won't, the room.
The acoustics
acoustic.
in the room.
And even putting acoustic tiles on the walls aren't gonna help much.
It will help. It would help.
I mean, you can do that.
Come to think of it, it's not like, it's different than the community room over there, and I don't know whether we would use any of these spaces in a similar fashion. But right now, it's not like we have 10 people talking at the same time.
Right.
It doesn't get too, hopefully, it doesn't get too loud. Maybe some select board meetings get loud, but you
We've had
usually
a
hear
few.
most people.
We've had a few,
But there's usually only one person talking and you hear them.
yeah.
So maybe it's not as big an issue, I mean, it's to me, it's a bigger issue that, in a community room space or like
That's a
the
really
hatchet. I
big,
have a hard time. with
yeah, yeah.
hatchet.
And they've done a lot to
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah, And I like the hatchet a lot, but it's very hard for me to hear in there.
So we could do something about if we kept the tin
Right.
downstairs and we wanted to put something above the tin just to
Right,
for
but,
the
okay,
two floor
so now you're
transmission.
keeping the tin
Yeah,
and we're not sure what condition it's in,
right.
up above those ceilings.
I know,
And then to put something in between means you got to take it down.
yeah, I
And
know,
then you're putting it back up, at which point even less of the tin is salvageable.
yeah,
But there's replacement tin.
We could put new tin in, but and now it's the same question as the windows, right?
yeah.
Is there
So
some
it-
kind of synthetic material that looks like tin, but is more, like.
I'm sure you can
or
get-
Something like that.
Sure, you can get plastic tin,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, I know, no,
you
Yeah.
might as well just put tin
Okay.
back and, or something. Or we put some other material that's not this, or we try to find enough tin or keep enough tin that it's in 2 or 3 of the rooms where it makes some sense, where that acoustic issue isn't.
mhm.
So that you can say,
Yeah,
oh,
I mean,
Interesting
maybe,
idea.
I mean, we already have tin in the room that's going to become the select board meeting room.
right,
Because
so
that's
that could
the-
potentially be a spot where it is,
We just keep it there,
or in the lobby, where
Or
the
the
stair
public
feeds out,
facing
that would be a
spaces.
good spot where maybe you don't have to worry about the
We
sound
do.
transmission.
yeah,
I think we have it right there.
so maybe just
Exactly.
thinking about where we might want to honor the historic nature by keeping
Right.
some tin,
Right.
but where it's a
The
functional.
historical
building,
society room.
we'd make another choice, and
I like
I
that
would
idea.
feel okay. What do you think about that?
I like
Jeff?
that idea.
To do what?
Keeping the tin in some places in the building as a nod to the historic part of it, but where it might interfere with function, not being so wedded to having the whole building be tin.
What's, and you're gonna fix this, but what's terrible about the way it is now is that it's dropped so low, that it's great for all the mechanicals. You can get all of the ductwork and everything up there.
Yeah.
But that's why you have the opaque panels on the exterior windows. And the other big
Okay.
problem that we had when we were in this space, when I was in with the school district in this space, is the walls only go to the ceiling. So there's no privacy between rooms. And,
Right, but when we take those
You're gonna
walls out and
fix
put
that.
new walls in,
yeah, you
They're
you
gonna
can
fix that.
But that, that was value engineers to
Right.
not do as big a walls.
these walls are gonna come out, the ceiling's gonna come out, the heating, we talked already, the
New
metal, the
HVAC,
ductwork's coming
whatever, all
out,
that's
so.
coming out.
So I would, well, and my guess is you're gonna take the tin ceilings out, because what I've seen of them, they're really beat up. So my even the hangers for all of
Oh,
this
They
you know,
just,
ceiling.
they're just drilled through.
Hmm?
You think they're just drilled through the tin?
Yeah, I think it's all, like, and
So
all
it's
of the
not even- we're
electrical,
not-
and it's really a mess up
Other
there.
than places where it's already still exists, like in the hallway.
Yeah.
And in the room down here, we might
I
not
think-
be able to salvage much anyway.
Yeah, those two rooms are
Okay.
in pretty good shape, actually.
Mhm.
I like the tin ceilings. The problem, another problem that I haven't been able to figure out is, the easiest way to do, one way to do this space would be to bring it back to a classroom. So it would be about the same size as the, planning and zoning downstairs. That was a classroom size space,
Yeah,
right? And they had several of them in this building, I
Uh-huh.
think 4 on each floor. But that's not conducive to offices, and we need offices.
I was gonna say, this is the post office
Yeah.
here, right? I mean, the police station.
Yeah, we
This
need
sec-
offices,
this
so
is
they're
gonna
gonna have
be-
to have walls, and if you
Right.
start taking, then it's less functional, like you say, it's easier to do the drop ceiling and the.
No, I mean, up here, that you don't have to worry so much about the acoustic transmission up to the
Oh,
attic.
Right,
Or hopefully there's
Right.
not so many birds up there that's causing problems down here either.
right.
But, there are certainly ways to do that, and if we're, depending on how we do the ductwork and the ventilation, which maybe is more vertical kind of things that are coming from the basement up or something.
Yeah.
Pressurized
floor.
And, at some point, and the LED light fixtures that are used now,
They can
well,
be
there's
surface
two different ways to do it. If they're very thin, so you could almost, and I'm thinking downstairs, let's say.
Yeah.
You could just put in some furring or some framing there that drops the ceiling this much. Or even less. You put a couple layers of drywall on there to dampen the sound transmission. You put a kind of a slim profile light in there and then a suspended ceiling or even you could do surface mounted lights with a surface mounted acoustical panel as well. There's all kinds of things. They try to keep that thin, keep the tall ceilings, don't cover up the windows, or you just put a piece of trim 2 feet out. Like if you got rid of
Right.
the
So you
first
leave-
tile along the wall here, and then it was up high, and then it dropped 5 inches. Then it's
Right.
gonna look a lot different, and
That
you're
would
gonna
be
be able to
nice.
see the entire window from anywhere in the room,
I like the idea of not having the opaque panels
on the
on
windows.
the windows.
Yeah,
Mhm.
But I'm not wedded to the tin ceilings.
okay.
I
Well,
mean,
we have to get it,
particularly
we have
it
to,
needs to
we
be
have to figure out how to,
Yeah,
we have to figure out how to get all the fresh air in here, the ventilation and
Right.
some ductwork and whatnot, so it might
Yeah.
take up a
so
little bit of the
until
floor
the
space.
until the HVAC is designed, you won't know.
Well, we're working on it.
It's-
This is one of those things that we work on all together.
An answer about how far
No,
the ceiling.
but
design-
you've just given me some direction,
Yeah.
that we'd like to try to increase the volume of the space. Keep
Yeah.
the ceilings up as close to the top of the windows as we can.
Yeah.
We want to improve the ventilation
Bye, Dave.
Yes,
by Dave.
yeah, I
So-
like that.
And we're gonna try to keep these exterior walls with the plaster. I mean, that's a pretty durable wall right there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, frankly, I'd like to keep as much of the trim as we could do.
Yes,
Some of the trim is
exactly.
intact.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay,
Plaster and lamp
Next.
remain.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
Elevator.
Elevator, we need to have the elevator machine room. That's the EMR, elevator machine room.
Mhm.
And you're talking, he's talking about not doing, there's a traction elevator as opposed to hydraulic. That sounds interesting to me. So the problem with hydraulic elevators, you have to have a hydraulic pump going all the time to keep the
Uh-huh.
pressure on. And it actually takes quite a bit of
That's how the
electricity.
library is. I don't think.
It's the way this one is too. We actually have a separate
I think
meter.
it's hydraulic,
on-
the library's one.
We have a separate meter on this one,
Yep.
so I could even tell how much, I haven't looked at it, but I could tell how much it uses. So traction sounds completely different. It's only, the electricity is only when it's being.
I wish I could speak more specifically about the difference there, but I am not prepared to do that tonight.
So I'm interested in that. I mean,
Yes.
and he's right, the hydraulic elevator is about 30 years old. And boy, they're hard to get people to work on. Ooh, geez,
Yeah, I know.
You
I
can
know.
say that again.
really expensive.
Well, and in terms of funding, that's an accessibility modification.
That's right. We could probably get
We
funding
could,
for that.
we could probably get funding for that, because remember Ann Kroll was
Yeah,
talking
she
about
was very interested in
packaging
that.
all the accessibility changes
Mhm.
into a grant application, and
Right.
they would probably fund.
And they would consider this a change, even though all you're doing is putting one elevator where you have one now.
we have a 30-year-old elevator.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. We could always ask.
Right.
It's
Might
worth
be, yeah,
asking.
it also might be an efficiency measure.
Yeah,
So that's almost certainly gonna be the case.
okay.
Coordination, which floors elevator serves. I don't think, personally, I don't think I don't even know if it's ever used. The elevator has a door in the basement. And it's like, what, you know,
Well, I know that
in the
radiate.
boiler
doesn't-
room, it's a
Well,
terrible
does
place.
radiate use it?
No, you can't
No.
get there. You know, you have to go through the boiler room in order to get there.
Okay.
You have to go downstairs and upstairs and.
Now that's just a
And now
storage,
it's-
area. It's only whether you wanted to use
No,
the elevator to get things in and out of there, but
That's
you
what
don't
it
do it
was.
now.
No,
no,
No.
we're not using it
well,
now.
I don't, you know, I don't see any need to have the elevator go to the.
Seems like it
basement.
unnecessarily puts the elevator at risk in case of a flood.
That's,
That would be
yeah,
expensive repair. Or
Yeah.
If
replacement.
we were to do the elevator to the basement, you'd want to improve it a great deal because it, you know,
Well,
it
you
could
can't
be
get
useful to
out.
bring
You
stuff
can't.
down,
Yeah.
but.
But it's not
but
functional
now
when you
there's
get
a
it.
step and you have to go through all the, you
It's
can't
oh,
get
it's a
anywhere.
terrible location. You've never seen it, eh?
I've been down
I've been
there.
down there once, yeah, with
It
Yeah.
terminates in the boiler room. It's got very narrow doors.
Yeah,
My guess is especially when that's just storage and you've pulled out some of the partitions and whatnot that are down there.
yeah,
It's actually not that hard to get things in and out of the basement because it's only a half a floor down.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
right,
You know, so you don't really you don't have to turn on the stair.
right,
You just have to get into the stairwell
Yep.
there.
yeah.
So it would seem to me it would be easier to forget the basement.
It would.
It does seem to me to be a
Mhm.
floodplain issue anyway.
Right.
The traction elevator
creating a-
is better for that because we can, you know, locate the mechanicals probably up here, I would think,
I think there's,
you know,
the options.
and then
Yeah,
have it come
okay.
pullings rather than
I don't see
pushing.
a need for it to go to the basement.
Okay. As Jeff hinted earlier, Andrew met with the Historical Society.
Yeah,
You can see here,
Yeah, Karen mentioned this before, actually. This is, I thought
Karen
this is a good
said she
idea.
had a thought
She
about
asked that
a
they-
different place.
I
yeah.
think that we had it. How does this work? This is where it was, right? This is where we were gonna put it?
The break room? No,
No, this is where,
That's the old version.
this is
I
the
think.
old version.
Yeah,
and the Historical Society was suggesting switching it.
like
Yeah, there you go.
this.
Yeah.
That makes good sense.
because then they have archive storage right next to them and that, yeah,
And actually, they didn't want all of these windows.
Right, they don't want the natural,
So this gives them
documents.
one of them, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
I think this makes excellent sense.
all right, and this is where we didn't
They
even
don't-
put this.
yeah. If they want to be able to close
The
that
break
room,
room, you know,
I
it's
think it's
lovely
fine.
break room at 260.
Well,
square
it
feet.
can also be a small meeting room,
Yeah.
let's be honest.
Yeah, you could put a small table for
Oh, there'll
8
be a
people
table in there. I
That's
mean,
what we used, that's
Yeah.
what we do now.
We call it
Yeah.
conference room if you want, I mean.
Yeah,
You do maybe slash break room conference room.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of interest in conference rooms.
yeah, just, and small, yeah,
Okay, we're right on target here. We made it through.
We are,
Right.
there's one other thing I wanted to just at least introduce the idea to.
Okay.
Is when we get in, maybe I missed something here, no? But we talked about stairwell addition, but we didn't talk about the massing of it, and maybe we'll get to that. Oh, here we go. Not really on there.
oh,
And he ran out of time. So the rendering of this makes this a little harder to read because
Oh,
the
that's
strong,
pretty
the shadows are so strong.
Yeah,
mm,
So here's the stairwell with kind of a hip roof that ties into there.
yeah,
We're also looking at, you can do it as a flat roof across. Somehow, when you're coming up to that eave, I kind of like it better this way.
I definitely do too.
Now, the thing that we're showing here, though, is that if you get rid of the pitched roof that's on top of the
All
vault,
these windows.
you get to reopen some of the windows up there.
Well, not reopen, you're making new
you're
windows for stairwell.
creating windows in your stairwell.
Now we have
That's a new
60,
stairwell, right?
Well, this is, but I'm talking about the windows here.
yeah.
Oh,
right? So those are right now, or these two are kind of behind that roof. And not to mention that hip roof that's on this, on here
On
right
the vault?
now,
You're
is
talking
gonna
about
be
the vault?
dumping, is gonna be, I'm talking about on top of the vault.
So you're talking about eliminating the top of the vault.
That's why I want to know what the roof is of that, the ceiling of that vault is.
Huh.
It's a concrete vault. It's pretty easy to put some more new framing on top of that. That just has it be a single,
The
a
roof
single,
line, yeah.
a single pitch. That comes across here.
Because right now it's appointed, it's
Yeah,
like this,
yeah,
right?
it's a
Well,
hip
it's a
roof.
hip roof.
Hip roof, okay.
Well, that's,
That's
Anyway, just
interesting.
planting some seeds here, where, I mean, because the vault roof and the stairwell are not necessarily horribly compatible. Because
yeah, you don't want.
the
to
vault is gonna be shutting the water straight into the side of the stairwell.
Yeah,
Now, so you can build a little cricket and valley and you're still, what you're gonna end up with then is a bunch of water running down the side of the stair right
Yeah.
here.
That would not be good.
yeah,
So,
we already have a
well,
lot.
it's not so bad if it's a brick addition, which it probably will be.
But we already have a lot of roof angles
You
on
do.
this building that don't really,
Yeah, the porticos.
yeah, the portico's a
Would be
disaster,
problematic.
the roof
Right.
on the portico.
That's an interesting question. I saw,
Hmm.
I don't know.
So we need to think about, it, and we'll have, we can model this and show it to you. I mean, like I said, this is a little hard to see because
Yeah.
because we got the sun shadows on there, makes it really hard to read, but.
Yeah,
I mean, but there's a little bit different view
yeah,
right
so
here.
that's with a flat roof.
That is with a flat roof there. And,
Wow.
maybe what you do is when you're out and about here this summer,
Mhm.
next couple of weeks, is walk by and just see how visible is that vault?
It is actually fairly visible.
It's
Yeah.
really visible. Yeah.
There's a
The,
big,
and boy, you got a lot of windows.
well, I mean, on the stairwell, I mean, this was our first throw it in there, but, I mean, I'm not sure you need any windows in there, but,
You probably want something just so.
Yeah, there are some, yeah, it's really,
It's really weird.
the library's one is really bad with no windows.
Well, but it does. It has one in the elevator shaft on the
Well,
other side.
Yeah, I know.
So
but it
so
does-
that the dead people in the cemetery can see the nice window.
Right, I know.
so I think he has a couple windows on both sides at the top level and then one at each landing on the
Yeah.
end, and we can see what it looks like with just the ones. I mean, in some ways,
So
you get rid of these and
yeah, I think we
just
should
have one
defer
more
this.
in the end or
This is-
something, but.
This is a good thing to think about.
Right.
And I think we should defer it. It's. So if you're adding an addition.
Yes.
And subtracting a good portion of the addition that's already there, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, no, you're not really getting rid of any of the floor functionality at all. It's just the roof and it's just the massing of the building and how the water's being shed
Right.
off of the building.
Okay. So let's make this another agenda, future agenda.
Yeah.
That was the purpose here, just to.
Okay, and another.
Also think, I mean, I'm sorry, Jeff, if I can find the photos here, and I'm not sure if I'm not, there we go. Is that right? No, I'm not sharing it. There's some those two, well, I think, all right, that's the,
I know what you're talking about. I mean, you
Right,
can see
this
it from
note-
up here. You can walk over to the break room, you can see it.
yeah,
Mm.
well, I don't know
Kinda.
why this isn't working, but.
Mm.
There's those two windows that the arrows are pointing to are
Mhm.
kind of, are only half windows right now.
Yeah.
So if
you
you got
could
rid of this
actually
roof, you would have full
window.
windows there back, and again, it's,
Restore those back to wherever. they
But
at
you
least
know,
to
it's
look.
for the break room.
it
You
is
just
the,
proposed, right? No, that's the other side. So what is it? It's a police station, huh? No, what is
no,
that?
no, that's the MM,
Over there.
that's the TV station in the front.
Okay, yeah.
And behind it is the Historical Society. I think is the one on the right. Closest
So
to
where
the
the windows, are,
stairwell.
you know, what's being used, you know, the interior space being used.
Right.
But, you know, we could ask MMCTV
Right.
if they.
I
have
mean,
any opinion.
it's possible that you could, I mean, if you kept that roof on there, you could just kind of put some funny framing in there that makes it flat at the higher elevation. So you just get rid of that nasty valley that's in there,
Maybe.
maybe. So
Oh,
you still got to get rid of the water somehow.
You gotta get rid of.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. It's just the water, the best way to do it. To get rid of the water and not have
Put the
water
high spot in the
standing or
corner.
not create problems down the road.
Right, but again, so if you take the pitched roof off of the vault and you build it up.
So that the
Much
high
less, so that it's kind of either pitched or it's a flat roof with a
Okay.
drain that goes out and about.
So you make the hip go from the corner instead of the center of the vault.
You could do that. Yes, but again, but that's taking the roof off and rebuilding it.
Yeah.
So however you want to rebuild it, you can.
Right.
It's not that expensive of a piece.
Mhm.
I mean, it's all just wood framing
Yeah, yeah.
and you take it off and as long as it's not. Well, that's why I want to go down and I tried to get it here once.
Okay.
but
What is-
Linda
what-
closes at 4 on Fridays when I was gonna come
And then we're
through.
open it all
No,
on
she-
Fridays.
it's-
And that's it. It was Thursday that I called and she was closing in 5 minutes. I couldn't
And
get
she's
here.
not there tomorrow.
So, no.
Right?
So anyway, so that's
Yes,
what we
you
got
wanna
there.
know What the
Okay.
top of the vault is the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a question.
Okay,
Got to do
so
something. I can't just
Good.
put the stairwell in.
Okay.
I like your agenda item number 11.
What
How
is-
far can we get through that?
What's
so, like,
11?
It seems that you don't have enough to
Oh,
do
the
pricing set by
schedule.
our next meeting. That would be tough. You said pricing set by mid-July. That's 2 weeks from.
Yeah,
now.
that's what we're trying to do. So that's
You
why,
can do it.
well, Andrew's gonna come back refreshed, right?
So what's the difference between pricing and preliminary cost estimate?
The pricing set means that the drawings are ready
Oh, okay.
to give
Okay.
to the estimator.
Oh, and then,
And we can do that, but you just have to understand that, we had some good conversation tonight and you gave me some direction, but at some point, I'm not gonna be able to come back to you with all the questions. We're gonna write down what we're assuming.
Mhm.
And then you're gonna cost estimate and we'll explain what's included or not, and then you have a chance to pull things up and whatnot. So it's a
Okay.
dynamic process.
mhm,
And we're trying to, I don't want to
Mhm.
use the word fast track this, but we're trying to
yeah.
keep going.
So that back and forth is cost estimate review and scope revisions, 3
Yes.
and 4 weeks. That's where we're like
Right,
negotiating.
right.
Well, you know,
Okay, which means,
Well, the cost is up, you gotta drop the
Yeah.
scope and then drop the price, so.
Yep,
so this makes sense to me. So if you have. So well. What most projects that I've ever been involved in, you come up with the preliminary cost estimate, you go, no, can't do all of that. So like, where do
No
we?
red fox.
Where do
Right.
we trim back? And that's the back and forth dynamic process that you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no point in giving the select board the early preliminary cost
No.
estimate. It
Not unless you want the whole group to become apoplectic at once.
yeah, right. So,
or all
Or
of
the
them start
community
putting
that-
in what they want to change,
so I think that we should plan on going back and forth in August and trimming it down to come up with a concise proposal.
yeah.
And we should be thinking about all of the ways that we've cut already, which we've done a lot, actually. So, and keep track of those so that we can highlight all of the things. We're
They're
not,
probably in the minutes. A lot of them are gonna be in the minutes from this meeting.
oh, this is,
Right, I mean,
this is somewhat,
this schedule is still very challenging to be
Yeah.
moving on. I mean, all the things, well, we have to
Yeah,
check
yeah,
that,
yeah.
the tin
We
cylinder,
had
the
about 8
mechanical
different
system and
things
the
We just said we
vault
should
and
do
the,
this.
the
Yeah,
windows in the
Yeah.
basement and
Yeah.
whatnot, so.
and,
Yeah.
and I think he's right about all of this, is that, there's, there's only a 1 week buffer before the second select board meeting on this schedule. And if we want to be a bond vote in November, it has to be, they have to approve it.
Mhm.
So the only other thing that I could suggest is, and I think we should make this as an agenda item for our next meeting, is not just, the select board, who else are we talking to? And what kind of preliminary things can we be trotting out? I think we've done a good job so far of letting the community know that,
so you're talking about like outreach,
Yeah.
community outreach
yeah,
plan?
yeah,
Work
so
it into the schedule of here.
I think it can be, concurrent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All these little decisions they don't need to know about and,
No.
and at some point, we're gonna in early August,
Well,
we're
you
gonna
know
have,
that as soon as a number, people won't pay attention until we put a number out
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
And then people will start paying attention because now it's going to affect their taxes.
So I would think that the preliminary cost estimate that we'll get, we should probably border it with a range. That there's gonna be a range around it.
It's gonna get presented at the meeting like this.
Yeah.
The
and it'll be
public
a
and water
public
meeting,
meeting,
so.
Yeah,
And,
Yep.
and we can work at trimming it, but, I think we still. What was so fun about the meeting on Tuesday was the enthusiasm. There was a lot of enthusiasm by the people in the room, not just, Jake, Lori and I were so they asked, so, how confident are you that you get a bond fund?
so funny.
Are you cautiously optimistic? And I said, no, I'm wildly optimistic.
And that's Jeff.
Yeah.
So, and
Jake said he was wildly optimistic.
there we go. I think that's something we do need to project, that we have had a lot of public input in this process.
Yeah,
We have heard that input, we have scaled back.
I'm trying to respond, I
And
think.
I think
yeah.
we've been responsive and yes, it'll be
Nobody
expensive.
wanted a sod roof.
Right.
So,
Right.
we didn't have to say no to that. That was a suggestion when United Way was visioning
Yeah, that's true. No green roofs, that's good.
a live graph.
Oh, a green roof.
Green roof.
Wow, that'd be exciting.
No,
It's easier to put on the new building.
Yeah,
New
that's,
part of the
we're not doing that, no.
Yeah. And
That
I
takes some
think
maintenance too.
the pictures really, I'm sorry that Ben had a hard time printing the site plan, which I think is the most exciting thing, So,
People were really excited when we were doing the tour and talking about the site plan
Uh-huh.
and looking, they stood there in the front of this thing. And as we're talking about the site plan, there must have been 20 cars
Yeah.
that drove into that parking lot. And they said,
wow.
wow, I can see why you don't think this is safe. There's a lot of traffic. And it's like, it's just making it safer, making it, somebody brought up, have you ever thought about putting the entrance on the other side of the building, which one of your plans
Right.
did have?
That's right, yeah.
And I said, well, we talked about that, and
So, and I think that's another really good point to bring up to, all of our various different stakeholders. We've really talked through this project, just about every aspect that I can think of, so.
yeah,
Which I really didn't feel that way with the public safety building.
well, no, that was kind of a,
They trotted out an $11 million project that was at town meeting,
Mhm.
and everybody's going, what are you talking?
Right, well,
Yeah.
again, so that's,
Yeah.
you do need to work on making sure that there's fewer people that feel like it's a
right, we
surprise.
need to know
There's
what the
still plenty of people
naysayers.
out there that don't know you're doing
That's
this.
true.
Oh, there's a lot of, in fact, Brett Chorniak, the guy with the big beard,
Oh, yeah.
lives in Richmond.
Yeah.
Wasn't aware of the project,
Yeah.
he said. Are you sure everybody knows about this?
I don't know.
And I said, we have made it, the information public and available,
Yeah.
but,
You have to put it
We've done
on.
much more than that. We've done, visioning sessions and.
yeah, but we did one visioning session that was public, and then we picked our groups, and we think it's public, but people. I
So let's
when
make that.
somebody when somebody says a number, like if
That
we
will-
come
that-
up with $6
that'll
to $9
definitely
million for this project, then people will start paying attention.
So what do you need at our next meeting? And so what are you gonna be ready for and what do you need from us at our next meeting? So
We're
typically,
probably gonna have some more questions like this. I mean, if we're gonna put together some more assumptions, try to coordinate back with our consultants. We're probably going to come up with another set of questions just to kind of put in front of you.
Yeah.
I see it gets more intense at this point where we're
Yeah.
trying to make sure that you are aware of the
Yeah.
things we're trying to decide.
Mhm.
so my
And our-
question is can you wait 2 weeks?
We can wait 2 weeks because
Well,
we
you,
won't have enough ready for you. in a
right,
week,
okay.
know?
And you guys are gonna try to do the post office
Yeah,
meeting at
We'll
some
try to
point in
post office
that
meeting
interim.
end of next week. The other thing that we didn't have today is the mechanical engineers were gonna give us an incremental cost between,
I don't have.
Stretch
Oh,
and
the
base
energy,
code.
yeah, the energy thing. And then,
Seemed pretty confident that they were gonna be able to do that, so that,
yeah.
so we should put that on our
What's
agenda for
other-
next
I'm
time.
looking at what other thing? Did we ever decide what we're doing about moving the money from evaluating the historic roof to moving the
What do
money
you want,
to
what do you want
doing
us to
the
do?
post
We
office?
need a proposal. So, we need a proposal from the structural
I think
engineer.
we have, I think we have that, so I think I can get.
We
that
do have,
Do, you added something to it. What
well,
was
if we,
I suggested the infrared scanning, but I would
And the-
wait on getting that. I think,
Okay.
I think what
And the
you'll find is that
and
you've
the-
saved some money on the structural analysis, and then when I tell you how much it costs to do the infrared scan and whatnot, you
I
can.
can talk to Josh about whether or not we need select board approval to, you know, I mean, I'm not sure the select board totally focused on the difference between, you know, it was actually cheaper to evaluate the.
I'm not sure they knew what they.
It was,
Yeah,
It's like $7,000 for this building and 6 for that or something like
yeah, I
that.
was gonna
Yeah.
say it's 6 and 10 or something, but.
yeah, there was a, yeah,
It was less expensive for the post office is my recollection, but,
yeah. Maybe we don't need another, they've approved money.
how about if I ask Josh?
Yeah,
Right.
Josh might be able
We
to,
will not, I will have Engineering Ventures hold on any work on the attic here.
because it would be good to get that going. if-
They did do some work too, which I think is part of their original scope of work, which was
Yeah.
to check and see if the weight of those panels was going to cause any issues, which they
Right.
did, and it didn't take them.
Right. They might not, I mean, they've approved money for a roof structural analysis for solar panels. They might not care, the select board might not care which roof.
It's probably good to let them know.
Yeah, maybe it's just a report.
and I can mention it, so I can put it on the.
Maybe it's a report and ask
Get it
them
on the
if they
agenda,
want to vote.
you know, it's,
'Cause we do have.
When is your meeting, Jeff?
Wednesday, our
Wednesday.
next select board meeting is Wednesday.
So I'll try to look tomorrow and
Okay.
see if I've got those numbers, and
Yeah.
you may have them.
I think we have those somewhere, yeah, because there was an actual.
Yeah, if you can get it to me, that'd be great. And so
That's it.
our next scheduled meeting is,
The
13th.
13th, and I'm not here, so Amy, you're gonna take notes, right?
Let me
That's a
check my
Thursday.
calendar
Yes,
here.
It's
We're
July
back.
13th,
I'm pretty sure
Thursday,
we're back.
July 13th,
Okay.
yes.
and I'm leaving that weekend,
I'm not here, yeah.
so it's good timing for me.
Yep.
Okay, so, and
Hold on,
does that work for you guys?
That's what I want to look at, just to
We
make
won't
sure.
be back till the 24th.
Thursday, the 13th.
Yep,
I know I just set a
Li-
meeting for that day
library.
today.
we're having a library meeting and
I'm having a stress test that day, that'll be fun. So if you
Yeah,
come up with a
Kathy's
number
gonna
that,
run
that,
the meeting.
will that count as
Okay.
a stress test? Maybe I could just put.
I don't
all
know.
Oh, and I'm
the-
gonna join that one
I-
remotely because we're gonna be.
I have a meeting that night,
Okay, I just got
6:30 in
Zoom,
Williston.
info
Okay.
from Rebecca
Um,
for it.
Yeah, we'll
I'll
be
get,
back on
I'm
Wednesday.
gonna
Do
do
it,
the
yes.
agenda, and what I did was just the library chairs report,
I'm okay with Andrew
like
doing it.
Rebecca's doing. I
You know,
just did a little.
I'd
written
hate to
thing.
delay it much longer.
I would too.
Okay.
I know, and I'd seen this one coming, because both groups have been wanting to meet on Thursdays, and this is the
Uh-oh.
first time it's,
Uh-oh.
if you want, Josh can arm wrestle
Hmm.
Eric and Williston, we'll see. So,
And we can't approve the minutes because we don't have a quorum at the moment.
Right, that's
So
fine.
We can.
Just
defer
put
that.
it on next week's agenda to do both sets.
Yeah.
Yeah, next meeting's agenda.
So what I hope is that we will have a little more time for some other things at our meeting next on that Thursday. So we can
We
talk
didn't do the
about
funders,
scheduling.
and we didn't do the funders conference.
And the historic,
You know, we can probably give you the funders conference is great.
Cool.
Nobody brought
they-
money with them.
but there were some interesting ideas and confirmation,
I think what,
and
one of the things that was suggested is that we do a debt service analysis of how much,
and
and he
and-
did it. He said we had,
Scott said he was gonna do it, he and Mariah, yeah. USDA and the bond bank woman they were gonna work together and do it.
yeah, he said he already did. He said we got about $850,000 worth of debt right now. What's probably what's coming up. we have a fire truck that's gonna cost another $800,000.
That is not, well, talk to Rich about that. He thinks it's way too much money.
I am,
Talk
it's a
to
lot,
Rich
yeah.
about that.
Okay,
He's-
are we done?
yeah.
We're
Okay.
probably done.
I think you straight off topic.
We straight off topic because my husband's a fireman and
Oh, interesting. So I'd like to talk to you about that.
he
Okay,
is.
thank you very much.
Yes.